It looks like people are starting to pour in, which is exciting. I'm going to give it a couple, let's give it like half a minute or so as people continue coming in. And then I can go ahead and make a quick round of introductions to everyone and we can kick this off. Thank you everyone for joining us for today's panel. We're so excited to have everyone here today. And hopefully you guys will learn a lot from these amazing change makers in fashion. Everyone here is an entrepreneur who's put in a lot of hard work to get to this point. So I'm sure there's a lot to learn from them about their experience so far in crowdfunding and also just working in fashion. So let's give it another 4 or 5 seconds and then we can start going. Cool. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start with introductions. We have quite a few people here today, so I am just going to go ahead and start first with Taylor. Taylor is the brand partnership manager at the Renewal workshop, the leading provider of circular solutions for textile and apparel brands. After years of working in traditional sustainable apparel, retail management, sales, and marketing, she was inspired to join the Renewal movement to support industry-leading brands on their path from linear to circular business models. The Renewal workshop is actually the leading provider of circular solutions for apparel and textile brands, and she's going to chat with us a little bit today about what that actually means. And their proprietary renewal system actually takes the damaged apparel and turns them into renewed products, upcycling materials or feedstock for recycling. They're actually a zero waste circular, and they're able to recover the full value of what's already been created as a way of serving customers, partners, and the planet, which is so exciting. We also have Lenya with us today. Lenya is the co-founder and partner of Yuma Labs and creator of Laszlo Eyewear. A world without waste is the vision that Yuma Labs has. This revolutionary sunglasses brand designs really trendy glasses from recycled PET bottles. So 100% circular glasses with fully removable frames. That way they're easy to recycle at the end of their lives. All of the raw material that they use is traceable through batch control and really rigorous production follow-up. And they let it reach a maximum number of recycling loops, making sure to give it a momentary second, third, fourth, fifth life of really great looking sunglasses. It can go back into the larger recycling stream, having lived a really happy, fulfilling life. We also have Carla with us today, who is a Brazilian-born social entrepreneur based out of Berlin these days. She's used as a fashion designer and her trauma from a violent childhood as tools to create social change and gender equality. Carla is the founder of Project Trace, which is a nonprofit organization that supports women artisans through education and skill training in India and Kenya, which began in 2016 when Carla was actually living in India. They believe in providing education on fair and self-sustainability. Fair trade and self-sustainability is the key to actually creating life-changing economic and social opportunities. They've changed the lives of 100 women so far, which is so exciting. And their mission is to actually inspire women to transform their realities by enhancing their abilities. Like they say, teach a person to fish and they're able to survive forever. So we also have Angela with us today. Angela is the founder and designer of Orime. She's a product design, aesthetic geek, and huge plant enthusiast, which I think a lot of us have been because of COVID. She's also the mom of 3 pups. Hopefully one of them wanders in today and we get to see them. Orime was actually designed for strong, beautiful women who don't need the most recent trend to feel beautiful, and practical living in the process of following your dream is the fundamental way to happiness, not what you're wearing the next day. So it's about living in the moment, exploring, and truly actually being free. Being the woman inside the dress is actually the person who defines herself, and Orime wants to help empower women on the go to live a more minimal and fulfilling life. We also have Valentina with us today. Valentina is the brand director of the Gizzo Legend tripod and backpack. She's actually based out of Italy with the team. They have 100 years of manufacturing excellence and craftsmanship, and they set out to develop a new standard of products that are better for the photographer and the planet. They actually recently finished up a really successful crowdfunding campaign for travel photography gear that was made out of premium eco-friendly materials and offered free spare parts and an unlimited warranty, which is really exciting. You don't often see that with crowdfunding campaigns. They offer creators a peace of mind with high quality gear that they can actually depend on. And 5% of the funds raised actually go to inspiring the next generation. They give money to the Wild Shots Outreach, who provides education and scholarship programs for young people in the environmental conservation fields. So they're giving back with all the money that they've raised, which is amazing. So I'd love to just kind of kick it off. You guys didn't come here to listen to me talk. I want to make sure to give everyone the chance to actually introduce themselves and their product and give a short little elevator pitch on their product, their crowdfunding campaign, how it was going, what some of the upcoming recent plans are. So let's kick it off first with Angela.
Yes, hi. So yes, I'm the founder of Orime, and our primary focus is on practical fashion with minimal, timeless designs. And we actually launched 2 crowdfunding campaign, one 3 years ago, and we were able to do 165,000 raised on Indiegogo for our packable dress line. And now we're back, and it's currently live. We're trying to raise, or we're currently ongoing 140,000 on Indiegogo as we speak for our packable coats. And we're looking to fulfill by the end of this month. And yeah, we're on the right track right now.
That is so exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Lenya, do you want to share a little bit about yourself and your project?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Lenya. I'm located in Belgium. I'm one of the co-founders of Yuma Labs. We launched last year a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo with our Laszlo sunglass, completely circular sunglass made from recycled PET bottles. In 2020, we realized that it's super hard to reach out to new sort of customers. So for us, Indiegogo was super important for that. But also, on the other hand, what we're focusing at the moment is that we try to collaborate with other fashion brands. So we believe that we as a startup and our circular mindset have a lot of added value for regular fashion brands. So that's what we're doing today. We create circular collections together with them, and we sell them together with the different fashion brands. So that's what we're doing today.
That is amazing. We can't wait to hear more. Taylor, if you wanted to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So like Aditi said, I'm the brand partnership manager for the Renewal workshop. And what we do is we partner with brands and we help them transition their business models from linear to circular. What that means is helping to restore value to products that were previously deemed as waste. For example, items that have perhaps been returned or damaged on the retail floor. We have a full production facility here in Cascade Locks, Oregon, and we just opened our second factory in Amsterdam. And we had our Indiegogo campaign 5 years ago, which is closing in on 5 years, which was quite successful and a great way to introduce new people to the business.
That is so exciting. You're like a veteran of the crowdfunding industry at this point. Valentina, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi everyone. Yes, I'm Valentina. I'm the brand director for bags at Jitsu. Jitsu is a premium brand for camera accessories, tripod and bags. And we have been working with conservation photographers, let's say, and nature photographer for all our 100-year history. And this year it came like natural to start doing something more, let's say, on the environment. So we focused the campaign that is just closed last Monday. Actually working a lot on, again, the lower impacts possible on the environment. So our products are repairable forever. We are using recycled material for the bag itself. And we are also working with Wildshot Outreach, which are happy to support this year with a big fund, let's say, providing scholarship program for younger generation to teach them and open up let's say, employment opportunities in their conservation field in South Africa. So, I mean, for us, it was a super important project, pretty happy with the result of the campaign.
That is so amazing to hear. Carla, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I hope my internet is working. Very unstable. Yeah, so I'm Carla, the founder of Project Tres. We are a nonprofit organization, and focus of our work is actually on the social part and making products scale as a result of. We make handcrafted items. Everything is fair trade and made by the women in the project, and they learn not only how to make the products, but the management skills, managed by the women in the project in both countries. And we have been with Indiegogo for the past 4 years. Every year we launch a new. either promote new products, or we also use this opportunity to sell our old items because we always produce in small quantities, or to implement new social impact initiatives. So our last campaign was to start our center in India to have a house, our activities managed. So that's what we do.
So amazing. I love seeing how much of a range there is between you guys and the work that you're doing. But I think obviously the common thread is like trying to make the world a better place through what you're doing. So that's amazing. I'm super excited to be here today with you guys. Very honored. You guys are all inspirations. But let's start off with Lenya, actually. A buzzy term that I think we're all really hearing a lot about these days is the concept of circular economy in fashion. For those who aren't actually familiar, can you explain what that term means and is actually about?
Yeah, when I explain circular economy or circular fashion, I always start with explain the opposite, linear economy. Today, a general fashion brand or fashion company, that when they create a piece of clothing, they take resources from our planet, they produce something, then they sell it. And then for that company, it ends already. Most of the time, it ends up pretty fast, it end of life. So customers don't like their piece of clothing anymore, or they don't wear it, or it's broken. And with circular economy, we as Yuma Labs, we start from waste. So we don't take new resources, raw materials from our planet. We start from existing waste. So in our case, it's PET bottles. And then we have a model where of course, we create sunglasses that last forever, or we want that they last forever. But when we design the product, we are already thinking about end of life. So for example, we produce for disassembly. So it's really important that we don't mix materials or we don't glue materials, because then it is impossible to take them apart. For a sunglass, we use plastics, we use the lenses, it's all different kind of materials, but we design our sunglasses in such a way that we can take them apart. And we also have a system to ask them back. So for example, our sunglasses are packed in a reusable case. So it's the general day-to-day case that people use to transport their sunglasses. And at the end of life, you can pull over an address label, and you can drop it anywhere in the world in a PO box, and then it comes back to us, so we can recycle them. And we thank our customers by give them an incentive. It depends on how long they have their sunglasses, and we thank them for sending back that plastic, and we can recycle them again into new sunglasses. Nothing less valuable, the same value as that plastic had before. And I think that's what circular economy is about. There are a lot of different kind of ways to keep resources in a closed loop. We talked about upcycling before. I think that there are a lot of possibilities to keep resources in that loop, but that's what circular economy is about. And also, I think that's something a lot of people forget is the economy part. It's also really important that it has a commercial value, that you can sell it for the same value as already existing products, or maybe even higher value. That's something that's really important as well. It's not that we are an NGO, or for example, it's also really important that we're a general company, that we can really be an alternative for the linear economy, because there are really big fashion companies, and if you compare it, or if you want to be an example for those systems, you have to have a commercial model as well. So the business model for us is also a really big focus. So I think that's a little bit focus. It's a little bit what circular economy is for us.
Yeah, I feel like you really covered it. I think a lot of the objections to this sort of thing is like, it's not going to be profitable for a business. It's also hard for users to recycle it on their own. And you've kind of handled every aspect of that, which is really exciting to see as a developing model. So thank you for explaining that for us. Taylor, you also have a lot of experience in this, and with your work in the Renewal workshop, what impact have you actually seen with this current model of upcycling and circular fashion?
Sure. So just to provide a little bit of context, and thank you, Lenya, for that thorough kind of introduction to the circular economy. What we're doing is helping brands create interventions in the linear economy and helping them really shift. So what that means for products that are already created is helping to potentially repair or restore those items and make them sellable again, helping create sales channels for those goods. It's also strategizing for end of life and supporting take back programs as well as recycling. And then helping to coach on designing for circular. Like Lenia mentioned, it's pretty complicated to recycle garments that are made of a variety of different materials. So how can we really plan at the beginning of the lifetime of a garment for that product to be recycled at the end of its life? So right now we have about 20 brand partners in the US, and we've just launched our first e-commerce store in Europe, and we'll see more partners get added this year. But so far we've diverted 446,344 pounds of apparel and textile waste from landfill. All of these items were previously designated as waste, whether they were defective, dirty, damaged. So we've collected all of those goods and are coming up with strategies for either repairing them and making them sellable again, upcycling, like was mentioned, downcycling, or recycling those products.
That is so exciting. Thank you for sharing. So I would love to kind of just like feature a quote that we've been kind of bouncing around a little bit at Indiegogo when we talk about this, which is there was an article in BBC Future talking about the researchers found that the fashion industry accounts for about 10% of global carbon emissions and nearly 20% of wastewater. And while the environmental impact of flying is really well known now, fashion sucks up more energy than both aviation and shipping combined. It's something, you know, that we can't avoid. We all have to wear clothes. So there's really no avoiding this on the consumer end, but I'm just curious about what you guys think about this about fashion's impact on the environment and you know, some of the obligations that you guys have as creators. I might call on someone if no one has something to say. Taylor, I think you'd mentioned having some thoughts on this also.
Sure. So yeah, we actually used the same article in a recent presentation that we shared. And I believe it's from the same article. It might be a little different, but I also wanted to add that we're buying more clothes than ever and wearing them for about half as long. So for us, it's really rethinking the way we consume clothing. So it starts with purchasing more thoughtfully, you know, thinking about the end of the life of your garment when you're buying it, rewearing, repairing, and in addition to that, considering clothing as a service, maybe rather than a product that you own. So exploring possibilities to rent, borrow, or even shop secondhand when you can.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I feel like when I talk to, I'm a millennial, I'm dating myself by saying that, but when I talk to people who are younger than me, there's like a real shift in perception for how they buy clothing. I'm seeing more and more people talking about like thrifting, upcycling, and like renting rather than actually purchasing. So it's heartening to see that sort of change happening on the ground level. So there's actually a perception, I think, that sustainable fashion and shopping is really expensive, and it actually comes at a huge cost. That's kind of some of the things I see when I'm also poking around the internet for new clothing whenever I do that. How might we actually debunk this myth? I think Angela, as a person who focuses on, you know, minimal closets for women, do you have any thoughts here?
Yeah, so I think the biggest breakdown on the cost of an apparel is to break down like the fundamentals from samples of a manufacturer to trim, to fabric, to the cut and sew. So each of those have like different breakdowns of cost. Generally speaking, trim is roughly like 5% of the clothing, and then fabric is like generally like 30%, and then the rest is on cut and sew. So when you break those down, you start to see like the overall cost of how it would go to the consumer. And with our previous packable dresses, we made it overseas, but now with this transition, we're trying to focus on having everything made in the US in our local hometown. So it's about like maybe a 2 to 3x addition in cost for making it more sustainable and try to reduce the carbon footprint in logistics. Slightly more expensive, but I do think that it's for the better good to have everything under one roof and make sure everything is under the same control and the quality that we are assuring the customers as well.
That's really helpful. Thank you. Valentina, did you want to add something to this?
Yes, we are much more focusing on, let's say, the way we try to educate the customer, let's say, on what is actually the cost, the real cost. I mean, obviously there is an impact on the environment, but if we look at the pocket, let's say, of the customer, if you have a product that lasts, that you can repair, and it's not like something that you just throw away and you buy to something else, overall the cost is not higher. I mean, for the environment and for the consumer too. I mean, if you have something that lasts, even if you pay maybe something more at the beginning, you can be sure that that would be, let's say, your choice for a lifetime, ideally, of course. But that's, if you look at the cost in the whole life, is probably not the high if you think just on the other side and then consumer side.
Yeah, I feel like you guys are working against like decades of programming where people need to like buy in order to fill some sort of hole. And not only are you focusing on being business owners, but also trying to educate people on like why we need to think less that way. So yeah, that challenge feels insurmountable, but it's incredible that you guys have actually made real headway in it. Um, so what are some steps that designers and fashion entrepreneurs must actually take in the fashion industry to make a positive change in terms of sustainability and fair labor practices? Carla, you actually founded Project Trace to support women and artisans through education and skill training, and then ran the crowdfunding campaign, of course, as a response to the impact on COVID. What impact do you feel like unfair labor practices actually have here on the environment?
People obviously are part of the environment, right? And aware of that, and we can make them feel that they are part of that and explain why that is important, not just for an outside group of people, but in life. I think this is one of the main steps to be done. Like often I see in the work we do, when I see other brands in India or in Kenya, when they are fair conditions, that they see the people working for them really as outsiders, you know. And I think that this issue, we need to be more in a collaborative way and providing the ones working, making those things, access to the information, you know, and not just as someone that I am here, I know better, and you are the one here just receiving. So for us in Project Trace, for example, is extremely important by leadership role. We have some of them, for example, local markets, and telling people that they have to stop using plastic bags and stuff like that. No one from us ever said that and educate these people, but they learned and they took leadership in this role. So I think it's just this idea with the transparency and also be committed to time.
Yeah, that's really exciting to be able to see the ripple effect on like the local economies rather than just being producers for other countries. They're also taking that and changing the lives of the people around them. So that's amazing.
Maybe I can add something
Oh
on
yeah,
that as
please.
well. Is that we're all discussing which kind of steps we have to take, but I think that it's important to take steps, be in a movement and collaborate together. And sometimes I feel that, especially impact entrepreneurs, they're like arguing who's better, who's doing it better, but that's not the thing. It's that we have to communicate in exactly transparent communication is super important, and no one knows how fashion industry will look like in 10 years and how we all can be more sustainable. I think it's important to see, to innovate, to do an experiment. And of course, some steps we will take won't be the best steps if we look back on it in 10 years. But I think that it's important to take steps and see also the bigger players, because we're all mad on the big players in fashion. I think it's easy to blame everything on them. But even if they talk about recycling, everyone is like saying, yeah, it's greenwashing, but it is saying something about recycling, and there are a big part of the world that doesn't even know a thing about recycling in fashion. And those previous numbers you said, it's pretty unknown. So I think that every step can be towards a more sustainable world. And I think that the steps, which kind of steps we take, is not so important. It's just very important to move and see what will happen and what works and what doesn't work. So I think that's the main thing that we have to think about in innovation towards a more sustainable fashion industry.
I strongly support what Lina is saying. I mean, like, we are like also afraid about greenwashing that is on the other side doing exactly the opposite. I mean, like preventing people to do something because they're afraid of. But it's true. I mean, just start. Start from the first step. I mean, just be transparent, whatever it will be. I mean, it's not greenwashing. You're just starting. It's a long path. We know. I mean, if we wait to have everything perfect, it takes ages. I mean, it's especially for like bigger company. I mean, it's difficult. Just start. I mean, if you do it transparently, it's not greenwashing. You just do it what you can as Lina says, step by step. I mean, but you cannot be wait for being perfect. Otherwise, I mean, you never start.
Yeah, I think that's super inspiring, and it's good to hear that perspective, because I think a lot of the conversations I've heard about it have been kind of from the perspective of kind of exactly what you guys are fighting against. So it's really interesting to hear smaller creators kind of speak up in defense of that. So curious about if you guys have any thoughts on what role consumers can actually play to lift up sustainable brands like yours and kind of encourage more people to buy in this way.
I think that a little bit the same. Just start. Look at your what do you buy in 1 month, and I just started in 2017, I think, by stop buying fashion. I just 10 pieces, and then I wrote down every piece I bought and from who I bought it and which brands I supported with that. And then I realized in 1 year how important it is to be conscious about what you buy and not think that I want something and then buy it immediately. The steps can be also very small. It's impossible to say, now I stop completely with fast fashion. I will go vegan and I will be completely sustainable. That's impossible. I think that you have to look into your life and see what option you have, what kind of battle you will you can do in the thing towards the more sustainable world. And I think that just know that every euro or dollar you spend, you support some kind of system. And I think it's good to be conscious about what kind of system you want to support or can support, because it's also depending on that, of course. Just take small steps and talk about it. If you have questions, speak up about it, post something on social media, ask big brands where they produce, which kind of materials they use, what will happen at end of life. It can start with like just one social media post or liking a different kind of Instagram page then, and I think that can be also a really big step.
Yeah, the algorithm is super responsive to that sort of thing. You like say sustainability out loud, and next thing you know, that's all you're going. It's great. That actually brings up a really interesting point. I think that you shared with us your first steps in actually moving more towards a sustainable life and sustainable fashion. I'm curious if any of you guys also have something that you'd be comfortable sharing about your original inspiration to sort of move into this. Like, what actually got you interested in this from day one?
Mm-hmm. So my background is in fashion. I used to be a fashion designer in Brazil. I was working in the luxury market, doing like menswear. Was a very different world, I would say. Really questioning how the system was done, but I didn't have a very deep understanding of what was actually bothering me. You know, I didn't know why the ones making the products, they couldn't know the price of the items, or you could teach someone one step of the production, but a very small part, so they would not feel they know too much to not leave the company. And all those things, they were like forming until I ended up deciding to leave completely the fashion industry. And for me, it took a while. I moved to the US. I left Brazil. I was on like a sabbatical, thinking what I wanted to do. And that's when I had the idea of starting again, making some products, making items that would be sustainable, that I could use upcycled materials, but that would rather be a symbol of a bigger cause, you know. So the products that we make, for example, they are just a symbol of the quality. I say that we sit together with these women to make products, and while we are making those products, they are talking about their lives and their issues and what they have been healing. So the product is really just a symbol of everything, and that was for me the case.
That's amazing. I'm going to sound like a broken record today, but I just really do think that's so inspiring that you took such a huge leap and like really changed your life and then the lives of other people around you. So that's amazing. So I think some of the things that you guys all share in common is, of course, the crowdfunding campaign. It's what we all share in common here today. I'd love to hear a little bit about some of the milestones that your business has hit, actually, that you're really proud of. What have you guys been doing recently, and what can you share with us? I might call on someone. I know Carla had something that she wanted to share, so.
Yes, so as I said, crowdfunding was a very part of our story because it was really how everything started when I was just making this with this story of moving to India. I did alone, I will say 1,000 to India. That was literally my plan. And starting from 2017, we started making campaigns for and supported in the project for being able to produce different kinds of items, because when we started materials, we were sustainable materials or fair trade, the fair trade practices first. Shift into sustainable items. In 2019, we had a campaign in India, and last year was just of COVID. Those things, they were our milestones that were extremely important.
That is amazing. Thank you for sharing. So Taylor, you have also, it's been a little while since you've run your campaign. I'd love to hear about in the 5 years, you know, where you guys have, where's the journey's actually taken you guys?
Sure. So, I mean, overall, I can just say that we've grown a lot and we've learned so much about the industry, about brands, about how we can really best partner with brands on this journey and what kind of services we can offer to help make this transition easier for them. So I think that overall, our business model and the way we partner with brands has evolved quite a bit. As far as major milestones, as I mentioned, we opened our second factory in Amsterdam, and we have a growing team and presence there, which is really exciting. That happened in 2019. And then we're also in the process of building out a new factory here in Cascade Locks, Oregon, and we'll be moving this summer to support all of the inventory, to be able to receive additional inventory from our partners and really to grow our brand partnerships. We've officially outgrown our current facility, so it's really exciting to get to make that move and to see what we can continue to do in the next 5 years.
That is so exciting. Congratulations to you guys. 5 years and three moves now it'll be, so that's pretty huge. Angela, you actually are, you know, you're in the midst of the current campaign, but I think you're about to like kind of move into what's next. So what's actually next for you this year?
So what's next is actually making everything, getting everything manufactured and sent out by the end of next month. And our goal is to source wrinkle-resistant, sustainable fabrics in the next years to come. That's been kind of a pain point for us, trying to find something that is wrinkle-resistant without chemical treatment, and also finding the right raw materials to do it. But I mean, we're moving in the right direction. We're probably going to put more money into like fabric engineering or something along that sort, and also creating more lines for other genders as well. Currently, we are focusing on women's fashion. We do want to pivot into men's fashion and making their products also timeless and minimal so that they have a longevity of a longer shelf life for, you know, doing what they do best.
That is really exciting. As the stereotype goes, they shop less than women anyways. So you might not have quite so much of an uphill battle. That is really cool. So as we're talking about the future, I'd just love to hear from you guys, you know, what vision you actually have for your brand as well in the near future, and the vision that you have for the fashion industry over the next 10 years.
I can go ahead and start. I think something that my co-founder said that has really resonated with me and sort of in teasing, but is that we'll be really successful when we've gone out of business because all of our brands partners will know how to engage in a circular business model on their own. So that's kind of an exciting future to look towards, but perhaps not in the next 10 years. I know I briefly mentioned the idea of clothing as a service. And so I just kind of wanted to revisit that idea because I think it's really exciting and kind of goes back to what Lenya mentioned about thinking about a circular economic model as being something that's profitable and viable. And the example that we often use is like a used car dealership or a car dealership. So brands not only selling new clothing, but also selling certified used clothing or renewed clothing, as well as rentals, offering repairs, replacement parts like Valentina's organization, and then perhaps a variety of services, as well as trade-in and potentially even recycling in-house. So that's the vision or the future that we're looking towards and that we hope to support.
That's really exciting. Thank you. Let's see. Angela, did you want to share with us, you know, your vision for the next 10 years as well?
Yeah, so we do want to focus everything in a more sustainable approach down the line. Our first step was to create everything locally and eventually also the technology in fabrics, like I had mentioned before, and also creating a full line of products for men, women, and kids in the travel realm. Definitely really like the idea of the trade-in and having alteration being a part of it. Like they can send it in and having things altered to fit perfectly for someone. But that will definitely be something that's definitely further down the line as we get everything systemized.
Are there any dreams of like a storefront? Or are you guys hoping, you know, to stay fully online?
Currently online e-com with COVID being like a pretty big thing. We want to keep everything e-com for now. And then once we grow and scale, definitely storefront would be the most optimal way to go to get people, have it convenient for people to come in and get things serviced. Yeah.
It's amazing. Valentina, you guys have been around for a while, so you know you have a lot of history to draw from. What do you imagine will happen for you guys in the next 10, 20 years?
Yep, you're right. We've been around for a while, but like thanks to the campaign, we're able to, let's say, bring a lot of awareness on what we are doing, like especially on the social initiative that for us is super important. And that was very well received from the community. And this is like probably where we also want to push a bit further in the next years. I mean, we do care about the project that we have been working for a while, but we didn't give that level of visibility. So that for sure is something that we moving forward, we will go on doing. And again, as I mentioned before, we are working a lot on the quality of the product to give a longer life, which is somehow, let's say, easier if we talk about certain type of products, like more mechanical, which is more like easier to repair. For us, probably the challenge now is working on something like as Taylor is doing, maybe as a type of service to give a second life and to start thinking about also all the soft goods in that way, like repairing and giving a second chance to all our products. So this is probably where we want to go in the future. So let's say longer life of products in general and the social initiative, which for us is great.
That's amazing. Thank you. Did anyone else want to tell us a little bit about the upcoming dreams? Because if not, we can always move into questions. We've got a couple from the audience already. Also, if anyone has any questions, now is a good time to put them in while we kind of give some closing statements on our end. No big dreams? That's all right. Cool. Let's see. We have a couple questions already. The first one actually is for you, Lenya. Are your glasses injection molded? Where do you obtain used plastic, and what factories offer recycled PET plastic? So a really technical, meaty question for you.
Yeah, I'll try to answer it not so technical that everyone can understand it. My co-founder is focusing on the technical part, so I think that will be okay. We like to work together with the already existing system. So we think that it can be interesting to create a completely new system, but for us, it's very important to see how we can collaborate with the existing partners. So we work together with general recycling companies, companies where big companies buy their plastic. So normally our plastic is used for PET bottles. It's just the fact that we ask them recycled. There are some pretty big companies in Europe already, and depending on where we produce, because since we're working together with fashion brands from all over the world, it depends on where we buy our plastic because we want to buy it close to the factory where we produce it, as it's stupid to transport recycled plastic all over the world because it is all over the world already. So that's something we look into depending on the case. And the question about injection molding, yes, we use injection molding as production technique. We started as 3D printed with 3D printed sunglasses, but for us it was important to scale up the quality and the efficiency of our production. And also for that, we worked together with an Italian-based eyewear company. We did some R&D with them to use the recycled materials. And yeah, depending on new projects, we're working together with new suppliers and doing R&D together with new production units. So it's for us important to be agile on that and to have a different production facilities all over the world.
That was very helpful. Thank you. John, if you have any more questions about that, feel free to throw them in the Q&A. But I think what I'm seeing a lot in the Q&A so far is that everyone is incredibly inspired by your stories. Just like me, it's the word of the day. This question is actually for everyone. So who is the person or the people that actually inspired you as female entrepreneurs and women leaders to do your best work for the planet?
I can start. Taylor, you can go first.
Sure. I was just going to say I'm incredibly inspired by all of the women that we work with. The majority of our organization is female, and we just have experts in so many different areas. I think an assumption I had in joining this organization is that everyone was going to be an expert on circular and on sustainability. But ultimately, I've now come to understand that we need experts not only in circularity and environmental science, but also in technology, in coding, in sewing. And it just takes a lot of different expertise. And so working with all of these women has been really inspiring for me.
Yes, for me it's the same. Like it's really the women that I work with, and not an entrepreneur, but she was the main person that looked after me and my brother. And as was already mentioned before, we came from a background of domestic violence, so it was extremely important to have my mother as this leader and this symbol keeping us safe, you know, and helping us to navigate through all that. And definitely the women I work with in India and Kenya, they are the main symbol for everything I do. You know, they run their houses, they take care of kids, they start businesses. So it's really like, especially mothers that are not given so much the highlight every day, and it should. So they are my biggest inspiration.
On my side, I can say that I've been working for this company for a few years now, but I have to say that my biggest source of inspiration at the moment is the youngest generation. As we said at the very beginning of of the call today. I mean, all the younger generation do really care. I mean, and do really do actively actions for the planet, and they do care about designing bags with a sustainable eye. I mean, the designer of the backpack that we have really is caring about the project so much. And I see like this transformation, let's say also from, let's say, a generation of employers in the company, which is very inspiring. And I have to say that it's probably driving also the project.
I'm going to add on to Valentina. My background is in product design, so I'm not even in fashion design, but I decided to learn about the fashion realm because I saw the need to create sustainability in the fashion world. And I believe in educating the young ones as they come, because that's where it's going to be. And the younger generation, they have become the voice of like the future because they're not afraid to speak up. There's a lot, they're willing to like progress and make a change for the better of the future. The world itself depends on, you know, education and like teaching people the right way and the morals and the fundamentals. So I definitely agree with Valentina on that.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of hearing a kind of a constant here is like surrounding yourself by the sort of people that will sort of like lift you up and make you remind yourself of like the mission that you have and the goals. So that's, I think, great advice for anyone who's like thinking about embarking on something really similar to this. Is there's a lot of places online even where you can kind of be around these sorts of people if you don't happen to have anyone in your life, until you actually like sort of build that network for yourself. So that's amazing. Thank you guys. We have a lot of questions about how people can actually find you online, and they can follow you. So what are some of the best ways to actually find all of you guys individually?
I think that people can find me on LinkedIn, of course, but when you send a message on our social media, Yuma Labs, I will be there really close by. So people can just reach out to Yuma Labs and like our page, and every post we're posting, of course, that's super important.
Yeah, the best way to reach Orime is just to DM or email at hello@theorime.com or send us a DM at the Orime. That's the best way to reach it. And I'm usually the first one to see all the emails and messages, and I'm pretty responsive.
If you'd like to learn more about the Renewal Workshop, we have a website, which is therenewalworkshop.com. It's an online marketplace for some of our partners. And then there's also more information about the work that we're doing and also our team. Or you can get in touch with me directly on LinkedIn.
Yes, for me, it's really through Instagram or through our website, project3tres.com. And on Instagram is just Project Tres, the same way.
And you can find us at jitsa.com or on social media, Jitsa Inspires. You will find it on Instagram and Facebook.
Perfect. We will try to include everyone's ats and handles so that way everyone can more easily reach you guys. I'm sure folks have other questions as well. We actually have a question for you, Taylor. You mentioned earlier clothing as a service, that term. What did you actually mean by that? We have an anonymous person who's really curious.
Sure. So the concept of clothing as a service really gets back to end user responsibility and how brands think about selling clothing. So rather than brands selling a garment and then the buyer purchases it and now owns it, they're selling clothing as a service, which means that the consumer has the opportunity to utilize the garment, whether that's a short-term rental or longer term, perhaps to the end of its life. But they don't technically own the garment. They're just wearing it as a service, but ultimately the brand is responsible for the life cycle of those garments. It's sort of similar to when you think of light as a service. So perhaps people utilize light bulbs, but they're actually sending them back or trading them in and getting new bulbs. Different, more mechanical organizations have offered products as a service, but it's sort of a new concept for the apparel industry.
That's really helpful. Thank you. So Valentina, we actually have a question for you as well. because you create sustainable gear for photographers, do you have any tips on what material to look for when you're actually shopping for camera gear? This person is a travel photographer and they'd like to know more.
But it depends if we are talking about the tripod themselves. I mean, usually we do use obviously aluminum that can come for a recycled source and carbon fiber. In this case, the most important is checking if the company can again help you with the, let's say, the life of the product, sustain and repair the product, because it's much more important in this specific case. And for the bags themselves, I think that we are working basically with the same type of fabrics because it's recycled PET. So it's the same type of material. And in the specific case, we also uses eco-leader that is coming from, let's say, non-toxic solvent processes. But basically everything that is recycled also in this type of fabric is coming from recycled PET.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you. We have some more questions that kind of relate to actually the nitty gritty of crowdfunding. Some of them are a little personal, so feel free not to share, but curious if any one of you is willing to share what your marketing budget was, or even maybe a percentage that you allocated for marketing, or some of the approaches that you had towards getting the word out there about your fashion campaign, because I think this can be a tricky market to actually, market towards.
Maybe I can start with something. I know it sounds a little bit lame to tell it, but yeah, just reach out to Indiegogo. It's wonderful what kind of help they've been for our campaign. And I think that we had some calls with Indiegogo, and we had also that kind of specific questions. And there's just someone who's working for Indiegogo who will look into your kind of product or your company, and they have some really good numbers on the budget and material. I think that's the first step you have to take. That was something very helpful for our campaign last year.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, we're happy to help. If anyone has any questions, you can always actually reach out to me directly, adeeti@indiegogo.com. I'm happy to help you through any crowdfunding questions you might have. We try to be very hands-on with campaigns that are running on the platform. Does anyone else have any thoughts on what they think made a successful campaign for them?
I can probably chime in a little bit here. A big part of the marketing budget has to be allocated to Facebook ads, I feel. Getting the word out and getting as much foot traffic as possible to your campaign is very, very fundamental to helping you see your growth within the first day of launch, and also having a pre-marketing email campaign built out so that right when you launch, you have your email list ready to send out and for them to buy and help support your vision.
Yeah, that is exactly it. For those of you guys who are curious, we have a lot of webinars that are really focused on education about how to build up your initial audience, what to look for, especially when it comes to digital marketing, if that's the route that you're taking. So I would take a look through some of the material we've got online for that. Did anyone go kind of the alternative route and go through like maybe more on the ground marketing, like events or word of mouth, things like that? Or did most of you guys kind of rely on the digital marketing?
For us, we launched together with our crowdfunding campaign, our rebranding, so a new name. And for some previous fans of our company, it was really important to get that word out. So we also focused on the movie and the rebranding and the graphics. That was something also really a big part of our budget. So the movie, the pictures, we took the lifestyle, that kind of material we still use after the campaign. So that was also very important for us.
That is really helpful. Thank you. Actually, we have a couple of quick last questions about, to bring it back to sustainability and fashion. We have a question that's kind of specific. When exactly is clothing sustainable? Like 30% recycled materials, or what's a reference that people can use here?
The clothing that is already in your closet.
Fair enough.
The hardest, it's just, yeah, it's the same as food. it's so hard to tell that something is sustainable. The question is sustainable? Does it exist sustainable fashion? Because you just have to wear what you already have, and of course upcycle what you, or swap between friends. Or I think that that's the thing that can be the most sustainable. But then there are some other steps, and I think the last part is that you buy new clothes out of brands you believe in, that are transparent about their production and the materials that they use. But before that, it's good to look into your closet and see how many clothes you already have.
That is a good point. A hard truth to swallow for some of us, but it's true. You're right. We have another question about profitability. How profitable is fashion, sustainable fashion? And I know you guys had mentioned that part of what your eye is towards profitability. You can't obviously continue to function long term without that. So I imagine the answer must be profitable enough. But curious if anyone has any thoughts on some of the trade-off there.
I can speak to our perspective on the circular business model, which is that, long term, it can be profitable. And that's something that we're kind of working with different brands to sort of unlearn their current perspective on tying production to profit, and continuing to need to produce more and more over time in order to make more and more profit or revenue. For us, since we're working specifically on items that are typically deemed as waste or have been written off, right? They are assumed to no longer have any value. So with product renewal or repair, there is a cost associated, but it also provides the opportunity to sell that product again. So it's really kind of unlearning that linear business model and approaching profitability and production from a new perspective, which is difficult and something that we all are working through, right, in making this transition to more sustainable fashion, but something that we definitely see being successful for brands long term.
That actually kind of ties into, I think, maybe what we might have to be the final question. What are some of the huge challenges in sustainable fashion? I think you kind of mentioned one there, but curious if anyone else has any thoughts here.
In my opinion, is to look into sustainable fashion, which is something somehow relatively new, with the same eyes as from the previous model from fast fashion, So for example, expect that you are going to be able to pay the same price for something that is fair trade, or like looking for these quick solutions in a model that is still being developed. I think this is one of the biggest challenges. So to really this often process of reinforcing, why is fair fashion still a bit more expensive? What does it involve, and how complex it is to make things better? So in my opinion, that's one of the main ones, and I would leave place for the others to share their thoughts.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in on this because I feel like as sustainable fashion is coming out and becoming more popular, there's going to be more manufacturers willing to make sustainable fabrics, because when they make in bulk, that's where they get the lower priced cost of creating these things, because everyone's ordering it. So then the biggest thing is to make it more of a easily accessible type of way to go, so that when brands purchase fabrics or whatnot plastics, it's going to be a cheaper route to go as long as more people buy it.
And I'll quickly add, textile recycling is a very underdeveloped field, and we talk a lot about recycled materials, but most are made from things like plastic bottles, ocean plastics, but actually building up the technology to recycle clothes into new clothes is something that I hope makes a lot of progress in the near future.
One last thing, I know I said this was the last question, but I'm curious if someone is new to sustainability and and they want to learn more, where are some resources that they can go to actually start that journey for themselves?
I would first recommend the documentary, The True Cost. I think that's a good place to start. And I think it's very important that we see the people making things for us as humans, exactly as me, as you, with the same issues and concerns and preferences for eating mangoes over bananas than every and each of us. And I think often this is very much removed from the mainstream media. So the true cost, that's my recommendation.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We will be sharing some of the contact information with everyone who was here today, so that way you guys can reach out and follow them and see the inspiring things they're going to do in the years to come that they've mentioned today. I just wanted to close out very quickly with, a lot of you guys seem to mention that you were interested in running a campaign. If you wanted to, you could always reach out to me, adeeti@indiegogo.com. And we're also running a fellowship program, which is a program aimed at educating campaigners with limited resources, maybe those who can't afford to hire an agency. So if you're interested in that, we have a blog post about that. It's an 8-week educational program, and it'll hook you up with some mentors internally as well. So take a look at that. And thank you all so much for joining us. Happy Earth Day, everyone. I hope today's great for everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.